Hey yo, it's your host, and today we're going to be going over through my list of the top 10 most wasted characters in Naruto. Now, considering how many characters we actually get in the Naruto manga, which is at least 500, it's almost inevitable that many of them would get left on Kishimoto's writer shelf. Still, there's a decent handful of characters that didn't really get the screen time they deserved. And Kishimoto will often drop certain characters in favor of newer characters or just Naruto and Sasuke. Characters that used to be fan favorites get forgotten about, and then they get downgraded to a much more minor role. That and certain lore or mystery characters that we've all wanted to see more of just remained that complete mystery that we know nothing about. So I figured that it's only right someone calls this out and gives these characters the recognition that they deserve. Now, I'm not gonna be able to tackle every wasted character in Naruto, so I'll just go over the top 10 selections. Though if you think I missed anyone, then be sure to leave that in the comments. Otherwise, let's just jump straight to it. This might sound like a strange entry. Sakura is the main character, so why would she be on this list? Well then, might I remind you that this is a most wasted characters, not a most obscure characters list. And when compared to the three other main characters, Sakura is kinda wasted. And this has nothing to do with how Sakura was useless in part 1. I'm actually talking about Sakura's role in Shippuden. For a main character, she really doesn't get that much to do in the main storyline. Kishimoto doesn't really give her as much time or relevance as Naruto, Sasuke, or Kakashi. The only time that she truly lived up to the main character role was during the Kazekage rescue arc, and then afterwards, bam, barely anything. It's not like there wasn't anything that she could have done in the story. Let's look at the Pain arc, for example. She spends the majority of that arc off-screen helping in the hospital, only to make a brief appearance to scream for Naruto to return, and once Naruto gets pinned down by Tendo Pain, it's Hinata, not Sakura, that comes to his rescue. Like, that would have been the perfect moment to give Sakura some much needed screen time. And she's also absent for the beginning of the war arc until the allied shinobi force joins Naruto and B. So she basically gets lumped in with the rookies. I guess she did help keep Naruto alive, and she does help Obito find Sasuke and punch Kaguya later. But considering that she's supposed to be a main character, yeah, I'd say she was definitely wasted. Now, there's actually a very good reason as to why I ranked the Immortal Duo here, and that's due to the fact that the Akatsuki suppression arc was meant to last longer than it did, and that Kishimoto had to rush it due to the rigid schedule that he was tied to, despite him being ill at the time. Kishimoto himself said that Hidan was meant to be able to use more jutsu with his scythe, and that due to pacing constraints, we just never got the chance to see those jutsu. While they weren't the most important Akatsuki members, they didn't get the screen time they were meant to get. Also, the way they dealt with Kakuzu was kinda lame, and solidifies the idea that the arc was rushed. Like, it feels like Kakuzu was just used as a stepping stone for Naruto to ease his insecurities about Sasuke. Kakuzu felt very threatening during the entire arc, and yet all of the sudden, not only is Naruto able to outsmart him, but essentially just one-tap him, and his defeat is considered to be the least satisfying Akatsuki death, though I still think there's a more wasted Akatsuki member. The Hebi or the Taka, Jugo, Suigetsu, and Karin, obviously not including Sasuke in this, but the team he created in order to aid him in his quest for vengeance against Itachi. I actually have a video about these three where I dive into greater detail as to why I think that they're underrated. I always found them to be pretty funny, but yeah. Team Taka belongs in a list of characters that have been shafted by Kishimoto. The thing is, when they were first introduced, each member of Hebi was portrayed as a unique individual with their own backstory and aspirations, and yet they don't get the time to develop as characters. And honestly, the only one of them that was truly essential for the hunt of Itachi was Karin due to her impeccable sensory abilities. And Karin gets done pretty fucking dirty. Suigetsu was supposed to be all about collecting the 7 swords of the mist, but that side story gets dropped pretty early on. Jugo's inability to control his impulses was supposed to be this major struggle for him, yet it doesn't seem to matter at all later. Fair to say that they were all kinda wasted. I would have ranked them lower, but at least they participate in that one fight against Swirly Zetsu in the war arc, where we learned that Karin is actually really broken. If she's always been that broken and just never used her abilities, then that's another reason why she's a wasted character. This is who I think is the most wasted Akatsuki member. Conan's always been very underrated. I mean, heck, even my How Strong is Conan video could barely even crack 500. She barely even feels like an Akatsuki member. The problem with Conan is she's always lived in Pain's shadow, and she isn't really that much of a standalone character. Like, at first she believed in Yahiko's path, and then after Yahiko died and Nagato got swayed over to the dark side by Tobi, she just follows Nagato, and then once Nagato puts his faith in Naruto, you see where I'm going with this. To be fair, the Akatsuki Hiden novel implies that Conan doubted Tobi and Zetsu from the beginning, but that's exactly what I mean by a wasted character. Why couldn't we get some scenes of her doubting Obito before the Leaf invasion in the manga? Speaking of the invasion, Conan's role is very minuscule during the assault on Konoha. Like, she's an Akatsuki member, yet the best role that Kishimoto could give her was fighting some Aburami clansmen. It feels like Pain could have done the invasion without her. Now, her fight against Obito was pretty awesome in my opinion, but it's not that long, and she shortly dies after. We don't even get to see a single scene of her being the leader of the Hidden Reign after Pain's death. Definitely a wasted character. Now, this entry isn't limited to a specific character, but more so applies to the 6 Jinchuriki from the 2 tails to the 7 tails. What I never understood when I first watched the series is, why didn't we get to see the other Jinchuriki captured by the Akatsuki? Like, I get that the Jinchuriki were just a subplot, and there probably wasn't enough time to include every capture in the manga, but I think that I speak for everyone when I say that we would have loved to see the Akatsuki duos fighting their targeted Jinchuriki. Most of the times, we only got to see the aftermath of the fight. The anime did expand on some of the fights, like Kisame versus the 4 tails Roshi, and Pain versus the 6 tails Utakata. However, Yugito and Fu were off-screened. Han, we don't even know who captured him. And Yagura wasn't even the Jinchuriki by then. Yagura did have another subplot, being the Mizukage and getting genjutsu'd by Obito. I still think the Jinchuriki could have been utilized more. They all felt like background characters, and 5 of them working together didn't hold a candle to Naruto and Kurama. Though at least they were reanimated. But I still think that the Jinchuriki, especially Yugito and Han, were wasted characters. The White Fang is kind of this lore entity that's surprisingly very popular despite how ambiguous he is. He ranked number 7 in the Naruto Global Character Popularity Poll. So that's a pretty clear indication that the fans would have wanted to see more of Sakumo. However, Kakashi's father remains this mysterious figure that's barely ever got expanded on. We only see him twice. Once in a flashback where he tells Kakashi about Guy's potential, and another is when Kakashi dies during the Pain arc and he meets Sakumo in Limbo. The only other 2 times we hear about the White Fang is when Minato talks about him to Obito. That's when he says that the Sannin paled in comparison to him. And when Lady Chiyo brings up her vendetta against the White Fang due to him killing Sasori's parents. There's also this one stone ninja that was about to shit his pants when he mistook Kakashi for his father. So all this hype made the White Fang sound like a really cool and overpowered character. But the sad thing is, we never see him in action. Kabuto doesn't even bother bringing him back with the reanimation jutsu, which is a waste in my opinion. Like, it would have been perfect if the White Fang was revived and we got to see what all the hype was about. It could have also been a great emotional moment for Kakashi. Father of Sasuke and Itachi, current head of the Uchiha clan, possibly possessed the Mangekyo Sharingan and was a potential candidate for Hokage, allegedly. How did we not see more of this man? Like, due to how little we see of Fugaku, people have come to believe that he's weaker than a 15-year-old Shisui and his 12-year-old son, and we can't even refute that, since like I said, we never see the motherfucker. Itachi does say that his father is a bad matchup for him, but in terms of feats, Fugaku has none. All we know is that he'd earned the alias Wicked-Eyed Fugaku due to his powerful genjutsu and his achievements in the war, that were allegedly overlooked by the village elders due to their bias against the Uchiha clan, and he could control the Nine Tails, allegedly. What I don't understand is, why wasn't Fugaku reanimated? Like, imagine if Itachi and Sasuke and Fugaku all would have had a reunion. Honestly, complete waste of an opportunity if you ask me. Every list of wasted characters in Naruto has this guy, a fan favorite who's actually so popular that he's even gotten his own spin-off. I will say that Rock Lee was only a wasted character in Shippuden really. It felt like he was a part of the main cast at first and then got dropped to a side character during the latter half of the series. Now I think the reason for this is because Kishimoto already had too many characters to work with, and he decided that Shikamaru would be the most important one out of the rookies behind Team 7. That Ant guy had the same taijutsu based fighting style as Lee, and he kinda took the spotlight when it came to the taijutsu master. So while I do understand why he was kinda forgotten in Shippuden, as he had already ran his character arc, I still think he could have been utilized more, especially considering that most of the other rookies got their time to shine in the spotlight. Choji got to blossom, literally bloom to a butterfly. Hinata saved Naruto, Neji saved Naruto, Shikamaru had an entire arc for himself, even Ino had the feat of saving the entire Shinobi Alliance by using the mind transfer jutsu on Obito. And all Rock Lee got was his contribution to the 8th Gate Guy fight, where he throws a kunai. Yeah, that's it for his contribution really. I mean, I guess he kicks Madara also, but what, that's Edo Madara that can regenerate? Madara was just standing there on the side in that fight, and he was letting Obito do all the work. Yeah, Rock Lee was definitely wasted in Shippuden. You know how almost all of the rookies got demoted to side characters and basically tossed aside in Shippuden? Well, Shino's a special case because he was actually dropped as early as part 1, when he wasn't selected to be a part of the Sasuke retrieval team, which is something I never understood. Shikamaru is a smart guy. You'd think that he'd bring Shino before Kiba. Shino made it to the final round of the Chunin exams. It's clear that he was in the upper echelon of the Chunin in the Hidden Leaf. It actually becomes a running gag about how Shino's always forgotten, and Naruto fails to recognize him when he returns from his training with Jiraiya. So if Shino was dropped in part 1, you can guarantee that he was completely wasted in Shippuden. Like, what does he even do? He tries to surround Toby with his bugs, but that doesn't do squat. He then briefly faces Conan during the Pain Invasion, but even with backup from his father and other clansmen, Conan wrecks them. Shino actually had the potential to be a very useful asset. He was kinda smart, and his insects have a large variety of jutsu that could be used either offensively or even better for espionage. He had so much more potential than either of his teammates. Of course, Hinata's the main character's love interest, so she gets a lot more screen time, and Kiba's funny, I guess, so he also gets more screen time. Overall, definitely a wasted character. Okay, now we get to the character that's been done the dirtiest by Kishimoto, Tenzo. Now, being done the dirtiest and being a wasted character aren't necessarily synonymous, but I think that a bulk of the fans would agree that Yamato was a wasted character. The thing about Yamato is, he's the first person we see with the first Hokage's DNA. But as the power creep gets a hold of the series, and we see how truly busted Hashirama's cells are, Yamato feels underwhelming given his arsenal, especially considering how overpowered Hashirama is. Other wood style users like Madara, Obito, and even Zetsu have better feats with wood style than Yamato. Though what I truly believe is that Yamato is much stronger than we think, and he just never gets the opportunity to show that off. That's why I think he's the most wasted character in Naruto. Most of the fights we see him partake in, he's usually a support character and is always holding back. Against Sasuke, for example, once he said that he wasn't gonna hold back, Orochimaru comes and they dip. Based on the fact that he could rebuild the entire leaf with just one move, makes you think that he's got a lot more firepower than we've seen. He also gets shafted for the entirety of the war, and his most impressive feat isn't even credited to him, but Swirly Zetsu. It should be worth mentioning that Kabuto personally thought out Yamato for his unique genetic makeup, so all this OP firepower that Swirly Zetsu displayed was Yamato's power. And then once the infinite Tsukuyomi is activated, Yamato gets dropped by Guru Guru and gets absorbed by the God Tree, where we learned that all he ever truly wanted was to be appreciated and acknowledged by his team and his mentor Kakashi. Honestly, Yamato's one of the saddest characters. He's the definition of a wasted character. And that's it for my picks for the most wasted characters in Naruto. Obviously, this isn't it for wasted Naruto characters in general. Based on how many characters there are a lot more that could be argued as underutilized, like the rookies, the Sand siblings, and some of the Kage. But these were my preferred picks. Characters like Sasori, Tobirama, and Kimimaru are all also pretty minor, but I think that they got a much more complete portrayal despite their limited screen time. Anyways, I hope you fellas enjoyed today's episode. If you liked this video, then please be sure to drop a like and show some support for the channel. It really means a lot to me. And